What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction, and this one we are reacting to Australia's insane social media ban. I don't know what's happening in Australia and the amazing land down under. I don't know what's happening with the social media, but I'm excited to jump in and figure this out. Before we do, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Let's get down to it.
Quick disclaimer, I'm making this video because I live in Australia, and the stuff I've seen over the past months have got a lot of people talking, but I still don't think enough people know about what's going on. So I just wanted to spread some awareness about it. Alright, so let's get into it. Hi, welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion. For the better part of a decade, we've all known about the negative impacts of social media on children and youth. To combat this, the Australian government has just introduced a bill to ban all children 16 or younger from social media. But is everything as it seems? Right now, there's discussion and massive vocal concerns for government privacy violations and even free speech.
So this isn't just about the privacy or collecting data about kids. This is literally everybody accessing social media. That's how it has to work, isn't it?
Yes.
In this episode, we'll explore what's in the bill.
I don't like it. I understand what they're trying to do because I understand there is negative aspects to social media. But I believe that you can't, under 16, maybe like under 10 or something, but under 16, I believe that this technology and these platforms and everything give these kids so much opportunity to do so many amazing things, and it's also how a lot of these kids get information, whether it comes to news sources, whether what's going on in the world. A lot of these kids are getting it through social media platforms. Is that good or bad? Who's to say? Can be both, but to take away social media and ban it for kids under 16 is just, it's not something that I agree with. Like I said, I understand the negative impacts of social media. I understand where they're coming from. But to ban it is too wild to me. It's too drastic. But I don't know exactly what'll be in this bill. So let's listen to more. I'd love to hear what your guys' takes on this is. I just had a son not too long ago. He's a month old now. And I wouldn't keep him on social media until 16.
How it's going to work, and unfortunately, how this could lead to a future can of worms.
You are watching Cold Fusion TV.
On the surface, this all sounds great. There's been internal studies by Meta and a plethora of external studies confirming the negative effect of social media on kids. Randomized trials have been conducted where young participants were split into two groups. The control group, who use social media normally, and another group that reduced their social media usage for a few weeks. And what do you know? The group who used social media less were less lonely and depressed. The synopsis to all of this is that a bit of social media use per day is healthy for kids, but after about an hour or so, it all goes downhill. Now in the mid-2020s, for the first time, governments are doing something about it. The proposed bill in Australia will ban those under 16 from using social media. It's the strictest bill of its kind in the world. The ban will affect Meta apps like Facebook and Instagram, TikTok, X, and even YouTube is likely to be included.
Wow.
In fact, YouTube sent me, and presumably all other creators, an email warning about the changes for creators. And Google would only notify creators like this if it's a serious issue.
So what's in the law? As Reuters reports, the legislation will include, quote, an age verification system to assist in blocking children from accessing social media platform. A number of countries have already vowed to curb social media use by children through legislation, though Australia's policy is one of the most stringent. The bill has the highest age limit of any country, 16, and pre-existing accounts will be nuked, and there's also no exemption for parental consent. The ban appears to be a popular move. According to a 2024 YouGov Australia survey, 61% of Australians polled support restricting access to social media to those younger than the age of 17. Even the opposition party is in support. So the big question, how will this work? Well, Australia is trialling two methods to determine who's under the age of 16. One method is to use a government ID, and the other method is by using biometric data. We'll get to this can of worms later, but let's see what the Australian government has said. Australia's e-safety commissioner recommended a, quote, double-blind tokenised approach, end quote, This means that information would be provided to a verifying third party, and that third party would certify the user's age and give that information to the social media platforms anonymously. Under this system, the details about the child aren't going to be revealed. In a 2024 Australian E-Safety Commissioner report, they looked to the EU for an extremely cutting-edge solution by using cryptographic encryption for a so-called, quote, age assurance token, end quote. And these are anonymous, stored on device or in an app. Another idea being talked about is to utilize user behavioral patterns. An algorithm will then determine the rough age of the user. Other options to filter and determine age include facial scanning, either from a camera or in the form of an ID scan. And this is where the skepticism begins to build.
Yeah, I don't like that.
So
I'm not a big fan of the. It says, and most Australians agree with it. I may be restricted to a certain amount of usage per day, but I don't know. I don't know. I guess that's just me personally. So, know what I'm saying? I'm on the other side of the fence. Anybody who does agree with it, not saying that they're wrong at all, and they're probably coming from a genuinely worried place because of the negative effects of social media. So I completely understand the other side of the argument. I'm just against it because I do see, although there are negative effects of social media, I feel like there are also opportunities and benefits and things that come with social media and that come with these platforms, like YouTube. YouTube is a great platform for kids to learn things. TikTok is a great platform, but I guess if they're being shown the wrong things, then I can understand it. But I don't know. I think this is just a thing where parents have to kind of watch their children and watch what they're getting into. And I know that's easier said than done because as a child, my parents had no clue what I was getting into on social media, but it's just very extreme. Under 16 is a big age. That's what if you want to be a Twitch streamer under I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna work. I guess we'd see the effects of it, but I guess I'd just say I'm not a fan of it.
Opponents do say that this will keep children safe, encourage them to live in the real world, and give them back the childhood that they were robbed of. But there was an interesting moment during the Prime Minister's announcement of the bill. During question time, when asked, will Australians have to be prepared to scan their faces when using social media, the answer wasn't exactly straight.
Should Australians be prepared for having their faces scanned to use social media? Should they be prepared to upload their documents to some sort of government database that social media companies can then tap into for age verification? I mean, what are the options here? As you say, the age assurance trial hasn't been finalised yet.
Well, this is exactly what the age assurance trial is informing. But let's be clear too, these platforms know their users better than anyone. These platforms understand their habits, their capabilities, what sort of content should be driven to them and what their behaviours are. So in this year that we will take in terms of implementation, that will be the key focus. And as the Prime Minister mentioned, it's very important to have privacy protections in place. This is a complex area, but it is one that we are determined to get right. It's one that we are determined to implement because we know what's at stake here.
Interestingly, on public TV, when discussing the issue of the bill and face scanning for all Australians, the answer is a straight no.
You're right, this is the first country in the world to do this. We should be proud of that. I don't think we're going to be the last.
You're saying the tech companies have to come up with a plan to prove that they're not. So is that facial recognition, do you think?
No, I don't think it will be.
But behind the scenes in the Communication Legislation Committee, the answer seems to be yes.
Testing of using biometric information, including facial age estimation and voice analysis. Take me through more details what that amounts to.
Some of the products on the market that purport to do age assurance involve estimation using facial features, voice analysis and other biometric information.
So that means like a 180 degree like you do for your Face ID? Is that what that means? Not just a selfie?
Yeah, I can't speak with any details, but there are companies and tools on the market which purport to be able to accurately estimate a child's age using things like facial features, proportion of bone allocation, distance between eyes, etc. I mean, there's a range of different utilising, I should say, machine learning and AI capabilities. There's a range of different
We are going to have
people
to
with
move
existing
on,
accounts.
Canavan.
People with existing accounts, will they have to give this biometric information to keep their accounts? Like a 50-year-old have to do that?
Where the platform doesn't already hold the age inference data that provides them, constitutes a reasonable step, it is possible they will be required to provide some further assurance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we come to the other side of the argument.
Potential risk. All right, this is where I guess my side of the argument is going to come. Maybe they're going to point some things out. To me, I understand again where they're coming from, and we look at the data, the focus groups. I guess kids were less lonely and less depressed, which is absolutely amazing. I think kids should have. They shouldn't be on social media all day, every day. They just shouldn't. But to ban it entirely is also, it's just, I'd rather it be accessible than to them to watch all day than to have it banned where they can't watch it all. And that's just a tough. It's a tough argument. It's a very complex argument. There's pros and cons on both sides of the argument. So I want to hear his potential risks and see what he's got to say.
On the other side of the aisle, people argue that banning kids under 16 is just a thinly veiled attempt at mass surveillance.
Of course, if you're testing to see if someone's 13 or 14 or 15 or 16, you're also testing to see, by definition, if they're 16 plus. So if there's going to be age verification, everybody is going to have to go through an age verification process, won't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So this isn't just about the privacy or collecting data about kids. This is literally everybody accessing social media. That's how it has to work, isn't it?
Yes.
Digital rights activist Meredith Whittaker tells the Sydney Morning Herald, quote, "My God, banning people under 16 from using social media will not work. It would basically be creating a system to monitor internet usage at a whole population scale because you can't know that somebody is over the age of 16 without checking everyone," end quote. And this all comes to a head when Australia passed the Digital ID Bill of 2024, a national digital identity system.
Australians became familiar with scanning QR codes during the COVID pandemic, but the government says this is different.
Text is something brand new and world-leading.
Labor says businesses will soon be able to opt into technology called Trust Exchange, or TEX, to verify a customer's identity, allowing personal information the government already has to be shared with the tap of a phone. Cyber experts have concerns about that record.
If the government's involved in every transaction, then they have the potential to know that I've gone to this hotel at this time.
But the government says it won't be tracking how people use the technology.
Australians would understandably want to be satisfied that the privacy issues have been thought through here.
While entering the system as voluntary at this time, it wasn't without opposition.
The Labor government introduced legislation for a digital ID into the Senate last year, and curiously, it was passed without any debate being allowed, which should be a warning sign.
Lisa Given from the Melbourne University RMIT speaks, quote, "Some people, very cynically, are saying the ban around social media is just to push the government's decision to implement a digital ID system. Because if a ban comes into place, and we say no one under the age of 16 can have access to a social media platform, that really means that every single user is going to have to prove that they are over 16. So in the process, they would have to join the digital ID system of the Australian government," end quote. And that's not all, and the Australian government is rushing through a vague bill that cracks down on misinformation. And that's misinformation on subjects including elections and negative commentary about the economy or financial system.
This bill does cover elections and political thought, clearly in violation even of the United Nations. And the fact that elections, referendums, and we've just had one, public health preventative measures and imminent harm to economy or financial markets are just some of the topics that will be covered by this bill is chilling. Whether you're progressive, whether you're conservative, whether you're from the left or right, we need to rise up and oppose this bill. The government's function is not to regulate in a free society the content of people's minds. It isn't their role to arbitrate over the free thought and free expression and free speech of people. And you're getting that from every quarter of Australian politics and Australian society in opposition to this bill. It's universal. There is no support for this bill. And even the United Nations has said this would be a violation of the right to free speech.
with all of that
that is where I completely agree. It is not the government's right to limit access. It should not be something that they can step in and do. It shouldn't be right. It does access or the right to free expression, the right to freedom of speech. That I feel like there's just, I don't know, and maybe it's the American in me that just feels like a lot of rights are being violated. And I would love to see how the kids feel about how the kids of Australia feel about this. But I'm just not with it. I'm just not a fan of it. I don't side with it. I just don't think it's right.
Context. Now you can see why some Australians are raising an eyebrow about the timing of all of this.
And just a last-minute update to all of this, as I was making this episode. The misinformation bill was so heavy-handed and authoritarian that not one member of the opposition signed off on it.
A bill aimed at cracking down on misinformation and disinformation on the internet has been pulled by the federal government.
Yeah, you can't do
the bill
that.
failed to gain support in the Senate, with the Greens and Coalition against it.
So thankfully, Australians can breathe easy knowing that the misinformation bill has been scrapped. Of course, there's still the digital ID issue, but the craziest thing is no one voted for this, and there's not even any debate.
But let's move on to other concerns about the banning of kids. Others think that the legislation could just backfire altogether. There's a possibility that young people would just use alternative apps in secret. There could be an Australian youth exodus from apps like TikTok, YouTube, and Meta apps, and a migration to those apps that aren't included in the ban, like Rumble, Kick, and even more obscure apps.
They're legit gonna figure it out. They're legit gonna find a way. Like, if I was a kid under 16, I absolutely would find a way. Like, this is gonna be insane. Heck, I may need to go make a Rumble account now. Like, I might need to join the platform if this is the case.
These apps are more often the Wild West and could lead impressionable teens down an even darker path. Another form of backfiring could come from a lack of peer support. Social media may have many negatives, but it's also where young people go to find each other and find people going through similar things to connect. We're just not sure of the impact taking that away could have. And others still say that it really should be a responsibility of the parents, or that these measures should be done at an app store level, even before the kids get to the login screen of a social media page. And after all of this fuss, the ban may not be effective. Critics state that a simple VPN could bypass the Australian ban, rendering it useless. Of course, this depends on the final implementation, but from what's proposed so far, the ban might have loopholes and may not work unless it's worldwide. So what's next?
It's not gonna be worldwide.
Well, the legislation will be introduced into the Australian Parliament this year, and the laws will come into effect 12 months after being passed by lawmakers.
Another update to this story. The under-16 social media ban bill has officially been passed. The talk in the media now seems to be around forcing social media companies to come up with solutions in collaboration with the Australian government. The public doesn't know how this ban is going to be implemented, and at this rate, I doubt the government does either. So we're all just going to have to wait and see. So all in all, this is the way I look at it. The social media ban comes from a great place. Everyone can agree that we want to protect kids online, but we should ask ourselves, is this really the best way to do it? Parents should be the first line of defense, not the government. Even though it's a noble cause, I do have concerns over its effectiveness and the glaring potential for abuse by the Australian government. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Feel free to let me know in the comment section below. Also feel free to send this to anyone who would be interested. You know, when you look at the social media bill in more detail, it doesn't seem very logical, does it? But something that definitely is logical is brilliant.org. Brilliant is...
This is a sponsorship. Yeah, I just... I don't think it's right. And I know there'll probably be many people who disagree with me on this, and understandable. But I do think kids are going to find a way around it 100%. Like, kids are very smart, especially when it comes to technology. They will find other platforms to use. If using a VPN will get around it, they will do that. They will figure it out. Like, so I do think it's up to the parents to be able to limit your kids to however much you think is necessary. Like, I would never tell anyone how to parent. So it's up to you to limit or not limit your kid and figure out what the right balance is. But to take it away completely, there's just so much. Even though there's so much negative to social media platforms, there's a lot of great things about social media platforms that I just don't think should be ripped away from kids. And they don't even have, of course, they're kids, so they don't have a say in it. They don't have. They can't make any kind of decision. There's so many great things on YouTube, teaching kids the ABCs, teaching kids how to count, teaching kids, like, there's a lot of great educational things that now these kids won't have access to unless their parents do it for them. I don't know. And you can already set like age limit things on, you can, or parental controls on this stuff. So how do y'all feel about it? I'm in agreement. It's passed, so I mean, there's nothing you can really do. Like 12 months is going to be implemented. It did pass, so I mean, there's nothing. I just don't agree with it, but there's nothing you can do to stop it. So I guess we will see how it works. Gosh dang it, most of my audience is adults, so I think all of them are adults. So I don't really have stress about that on YouTube, but yeah, with everybody having to, I didn't think about like everybody else over 16 having to verify. There's going to be a lot of people that are weary of doing that. They may give these social media apps up as well. It's definitely going to be an experiment. It's definitely going to be a project. See how it goes. That's all we got. If you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and check out the next one. I'll see y'all next time.